Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Arabic television talk show. I'm Suad Asfour, your host. Today, my guest is Farouk Day. He started a Leadership Academy program for teens who are first-generation immigrants. He is an Associate Vice President for Student Affairs and Dean of Career Education at Stanford. He held leadership roles at Stanford and other American colleges. He is a keynote speaker in many conventions around the world. Welcome to the show, Farouk.
It's a pleasure.
And thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Farouk, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Certainly, I'm an immigrant myself to the United States. I've been in the United States for close to 20 years. Arrived here in my late teens and started college and went to college in several universities and just sort of had great opportunities to study and gain great leadership experiences and have wonderful mentors. And I started this program to really give back to the community and to others and to allow others to benefit from the same experiences that I had growing up.
Wow, that's wonderful. So your first stop was in California and you've been here ever since?
Actually, California is my most recent stop. Since I moved to the United States, I have lived in 5 different states, from Wisconsin to Washington State, Florida, Pennsylvania, and California is my most recent one. So I've explored quite a bit around this country.
Wow, beautiful. So what is the Leadership in Academy, your academy program? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
The Leadership Academy program that I started in the San Jose area or in the Bay Area is targeted towards teens who are specifically first-generation Americans, children of immigrants.
So those are the children who were born in this country?
Typically born or might have come here with their parents at a very young age. These are kids who certainly identify as Americans, American citizens. They also have the heritage and the background of their cultures or the cultures of their parents. And I started this program specifically in conjunction with the Algerian American Association of Northern California because I wanted to plant the early seeds of and the early passion for leadership and also really just give them the confidence that they could aspire to become leaders in their professional and personal communities. So we launched this program together this last year. It's targeted towards teens who are 13 years old or older. And it's been just a fascinating experience working with them and giving them some of the basic skills of leadership and confidence in themselves.
So it's one program that you use for all the teenagers. It's the same program. You start them from age 13 and to 19?
Yeah, so it's one cohort so far, one cohort of students who are at different age groups. So they go from 18 years old and it goes all the way up to 20 years old, let's say. The majority tend to be around the ages of 15 or 16. But it's just one group, and as they keep returning from year to year, they're obviously older, and those who are 18 years old or more, I use them in the capacity of advisors, of peer advisors and facilitators or co-facilitators with me, and I have 2 of those right now with me, and that's been a good experience as well.
Okay, so how does the program work for the students?
Sure. So I have developed a curriculum that engages these students on a monthly basis. So we meet once a month for 2 hours, and during those 2 hours each month, we go through a variety of exercises that help them learn some of the very basic skills of leadership. So I usually do a very small section of those 2 hours on teaching some of those principles, and then the rest is just practice through group activities and exercises and some of the obstacle exercises that they use. So I try to make it very interactive and fun so that they can keep coming back and they don't lose interest. We don't do major homework. It's mostly just really working within their own teams and learning some of the basic skills of communication and teamwork and analyzing the situation and problem solving. And the activities that we participate in are just a lot of fun, just very exciting to see that. The outcome has been just really encouraging. I remember from the first session when we launched it, many of those students came clearly because their parents brought them. But now they're the ones who remind their parents that it's time to go to the Leadership Academy.
Wow.
We are in our second year of the program. When we started with 8 students in the program. We are now in our second year with 19 students in the program, so we've more than doubled. And that's because there is interest that's growing among the community to have students join us.
That's awesome. So what are the requirement checklist the student must have?
So the main requirement right now is that they have to be 13 years or older in age, and that they want to be part of the program. Because I am doing the program in collaboration with the Algerian American Association of Northern California, we are promoting the program through that channel. So it's mainly students who come from families that are members of that association.
They must be a member?
They don't have to be a member at this point, but it's been promoted as a pilot program through that. But if somebody else wants to join from a family that's
Other
not a member,
cultures.
we can certainly welcome them.
So the program is designed for Middle East students mostly?
It's been targeted towards that. That's where it started. But I think it has potential to grow to reach many communities, I would say, in the Bay Area. And that's a hope that I have, is that we can grow it and promote it to many communities and maybe create different sessions for different communities. I think it's important for students to explore these issues of leadership within the communities where they feel most comfortable and where they feel like they are most connected. So there is, I think, a benefit to that.
Farouk, what problem did you face designing this program and starting it and get it going? It looks like it's successful.
I think that the entry point was really not that difficult. I'm surprised myself that I think as soon as we created it and we promoted it, students showed up and their parents brought them. So what that tells me is that there is a thirst and there is interest in this type of programming. So that hasn't been an issue. I'm not sure if we really faced any major problems at this point that I can talk about. It's been fairly simple. I think that I've simplified how students can access it, and it's been good. So I can't think of anything
Not
at this
much problems,
point.
huh?
No. I mean,
Well,
I think even the students. I mean, the small thing is that how do you keep students engaged and they don't lose interest and they stay focused on the task. But those are things that are part of the process when you're working with teenagers. Those are the things that you face. That hasn't been too much of an issue for us.
Well, sounds like you're a very good leader.
Well, I do my best. I learn a lot, and I have some good mentors, and I read a lot of leadership books. So I appreciate you saying that.
So what messages you give to society?
Well, the first thing is that diversity leads to innovation, and diversity leads to some of the most phenomenal leaders in our culture, in our environment. So what I'm trying to do is really make leadership accessible and desired by students from a variety of cultures, whether they have access or not, when they have privilege or not. The reason I focused on first-generation Americans who are children of immigrants is because typically in those cultures or in those types of environments, students are not really encouraged to pursue leadership opportunities. I don't think that they are discouraged. I just think that those are not conversations that are happening a lot in those environments in large, and research shows that. So that's why I've been focused on that, is that I just want students to constantly think that this is possible and that they have the ability to do it, and they can build the confidence to pursue leadership opportunities, whether they're in their just personal communities or at work or at school or whatever they'd like.
Well, I'm very sure if they have a good role model, they will achieve that. Mm-hmm. So is this program for limited time, or is this like for the long run? What's your goal?
My vision is to have it for the long run. I started this program and I want to continue it for many years to come. And my dream is to see the students who I am teaching today in this program return in the future as mentors and as co-facilitators and as teachers, as role models themselves. If I can work with a 15-year-old today who can come back in 10 or 15 years and that person is already a leader in their community, that would be a great example that I can give to future generations.
So what you do in life basically is you are helping you're helping a lot of students and a lot of teenagers to succeed in life. So how you manage that? How do you keep up with all that stuff? What do you keep teaching yourself, and what kind of courses you keep taking to upgrade yourself to keep to the same level you started with?
For me personally, what I try to do is continue to read and continue to engage with what's happening in the world around me. I'm very engaged in regional, national, and international organizations within my field, and that just keeps me current and keeps me connected. I've learned a long time ago that in order to be successful, one has to be engaged in his or her own network as well. So continuously developing relationships within my own professional networks, and then just finding the right mentors and role models to do it, and try new things and take risks. All these things I try to include in the curriculum for the Leadership Academy that I started. And that's what I really want to teach those students, is that in order to achieve these goals, there are certain habits one should include in their personal and professional life that they can achieve that.
Now, we all know that teenagers who are first immigrant, first generation, they go through some tough time because the parents are rooted to their culture, and coming to this country, and they're the first generation. They go through some challenges in life, and the parents as well, and they try to teach their ways to their kids and raise them the same way they were raised in their country. So what advice you give to these kids? Because some of them are struggling between their community, their culture, and their friends, and their school, and the difference with being home with the family, and if their mom and dad are old-fashioned. So I'm sure, what advice you like to give them?
Yeah, I think there is definitely that challenge that children of immigrant families experience, is that they're constantly living in a dual environment where they're negotiating expectations from two different cultures or multiple cultures, sometimes more than two. At the same time, there are major benefits from growing up in that kind of environment. And I try to remind, that was the first advice that I would give to these students, is that I try to remind them of the benefits of growing up in such an environment that sometimes can be challenging and difficult. That they're growing up with amazing multicultural competencies that allow them to deal with people from a variety of cultures, sometimes knowing different languages, that they have the flexibility to adjust and to adapt to different situations, because from an early age they are used to negotiating different cultures and learning how to sometimes even sell or convince somebody who might have a different way of thinking. These are abilities that we might take for granted sometimes, but they are amazing, and they are highly sought after by employers, and these are abilities that will make them great leaders in the future. So the skill of negotiation is really important in leadership, and these are kids who have learned how to do that from an early age.
Yes.
So those are some pieces of advice that I would give, is to also look at the positive of growing up in such an environment. Um,
So you keep reminding them with the output
yeah.
and what they gain at the end.
Yeah, yeah. I remind them of those, and I remind them also of continuing to balance uh, the the American identity that they have adopted, but then also continuously cherishing the traditions and the culture that they grew up in. And when you're dealing with teenagers, sometimes it's hard to for them to really and to really respect that. But I think that they will appreciate it the older they get.
Right. So where does a student meet and for session, and how long each course
Yeah.
or session, and how long it lasts?
So I have been blessed to receive a space from the Arab American Association in San Jose that has allowed us to provide these
To
sessions.
use their facility?
Use their facilities, and and it allowed us to make the program accessible and free for the students. So although we meet there, and as I said, on a monthly basis for 2 hours each time, I have plans in the future to start taking them on field trips. And so not always in that space, but when we're not in this space, we would be making some field trips to either companies or organizations or schools or different areas where they can participate in leadership activities.
So you watch these students, and do you follow up with them, and do you watch their accomplishment?
Yeah, I've gotten to know them through that program. The program is not demanding on purpose because I want to maintain their engagement over a long period of time. That's why we only meet once a month for 2 hours. But I see them on a regular basis in other activities and events, and those are not prescribed meetings. And I get to keep up with what they are doing at schools, and I'm getting very close with them that way. The program is still young. I think we will be able to see their accomplishments over time in 5 years and 10 years' time.
Well, let's talk about money for a minute here. We know United States send aids over $6 billion every year, international aids. How much these kids are allowed for? Do they have allowance for financial aid, or is there any student loans they have to get before they join your program?
Yeah, so I think that's a good question. I think once we start growing it even more, I think those are avenues we want to explore at this point, because it's still at a pilot stage, and I got the sponsorship by the Algerian American Association and the Arab American Association here in the Bay Area. I was able to just make the program for free, so
Wow.
the students don't have to pay anything
That is
to join and to
awesome.
participate. What I really wanted to do is lower the barriers of access as much as I can, because I want to make sure that they have no reason not to participate. I think as the program grows and the demand grows, we might need to look at other ways to fund it so that it continues to be accessible.
Let's talk about career development for a minute here. And we know this is your specialty, and this is something you love doing. Can you give advice to the students to choose their career?
Sure. It would be the same advice that I would give to my students where I work, or to anyone who reaches out to me, and it's the advice that I have benefited from, which is to first assess oneself. I would tell these students, know who you are first, figure out what your interests are, what are your passions, your skills, your values, and try to pursue something that really excites you. And you will find ways to make a career out of that, as long as you continue to be engaged in communities and in networks, because the training can prepare you for some of those jobs, but it's really the relationships that will help you advance your career further. So you want to know what you like to do. and you can find ways to advance those goals. But it's the relationships that will really elevate you to some of the higher levels of your career.
That's great. Talk to us about Vision 2020 and what advice you give.
So I joined Stanford about a year and a half ago, and started looking at how to reinvent our career and professional development process for our own students, and developed this new campaign to help us redesign our program, so that by 2020 we will be the cutting edge career development program around the world. And we started this process a year and a half ago. We completely reinvented our process, our staff, our training. We have increased our staff within the last 6 months, and we're on our way to really reaching that goal. The idea is, how do we connect our students to some of the best opportunities in the world that are available to them, whether it's at a university like Stanford or at any other college or university around the world. How can this model bring the 6 degrees of separation between a college student and an employer to 2 degrees of separation?
Wow, that's awesome. You are a keynote speaker for many different organizations all over the places, all over the world, in many different states. What subject do you cover when you talk?
Well, it depends on the research that I am conducting at the time. For the last year and this upcoming year, I've developed a certain level of expertise on how to design career and professional development programs in colleges and universities. And that has been of great interest to a lot of associations and organizations around the world. And they reach out to me and ask me to share a little bit about that and about the work that I am doing, and I'm happy to share it.
I was watching you on YouTube, and you were talking about how students, they should follow up on their career and their education online. So what problem are facing now that we have all this technology and all the changes and mobile technology? How can they follow up on their career and their education?
Well, we are in an age now where much of our brand is in the digital space. So
Right.
what I'm working with individuals on, not just college students, is how do you create your brand in the digital space as well, whether that's in social media, on sites like LinkedIn, for example, and developing a powerful profile, or your engagement in other social media like Twitter and others, and how do you become a thought leader in your own professional networks. So I encourage everyone to really engage in that and in developing your online presence, because that's how people will find you. Just as you have found some video on YouTube, or you have found some other information about me, that's what I would encourage my students to do, is to really engage in that work in the web space.
So you have over 14 years of experience in progressive leadership and teen career development. What are some of the challenges that you face in this experience?
Well, the world is constantly changing, and the economy is constantly changing, and technology is constantly changing. So you are never it never stands still, and that's a great opportunity for us. But certainly the challenge is that we are constantly chasing a moving target, and one can never stop from looking for opportunities to innovate and reinvent himself or herself.
That's beautiful. So what are the characteristics that you have to continue with the executive?
Well, the first thing is, in order to be a strong leader in any profession, really, is one has to have the ability to develop an inspiring vision for his or her followers. This is something that I teach in my Leadership Academy to my students, is how do you develop vision. So in my opinion, it comes from listening to one's customers, followers, to one's community very carefully, because I think a strong vision is born from that. So I think that that's a characteristic that I try to embed in my curriculum that I want my students to really learn at an early age, and I think it has helped me so far, and hopefully it will help them in the future.
Wow, you seem to be very busy. So what would you like to see more of in 2015?
Well, I would like, and in relation to the Leadership Academy program, I would like to see the students who are in it continue to get a lot more out of it and continue to engage. And I would like to see more students join us and be part of the program.
What would you like to see less in 2015? Less of what?
In general, I would say probably less less conflicts in general. I think that would probably be beneficial for the entire world and all of our communities.
Well, Farouk, thank you very much. I really enjoyed this interview, and I think it's very informative to a lot of people. You set good example and inspiration for too many teenagers and students who are looking out there for some help where you can help them, and they're looking out for you. And also, I'm looking forward to see more leadership coming out of your program.
I am too.
Yeah,
and
so
I look forward to seeing them.
we will always be very proud of your creative work.
I appreciate the time. I really enjoyed this interview as well.
Thank you very much. I hope to see you again in future interviews.
Thank you, Suad.
Thank you.
Take care.
And with this, I would like to say good night to everybody.